crusty white boy jump scare. All right, so before we begin into this episode, I just have a few things that I would like to clarify here. Number one, this is going to be the new setup look from now on. Maybe except like I'm going to have a different microphone, which will hopefully sound a lot better. It had some pretty good reviews online, so we'll see. Also, number two, numero dos, I have tried so hard to render this video out in the correct way. Nothing has worked at all. It would get to about 80% at its best, and then it would just stop. I don't know why. I don't know if there's something corrupt in it. I think that that's the case because somewhere towards the end of the video, the preview will just freeze on a still shot or a still photo of me that I took as a placeholder for the camera stuff, because I thought the webcam recording was doing that, but I don't know what's happening with all of that. So this episode's going to be a little jank, but I'm proud of it anyways, so I'm going to post it in its entirety just because I want to put something out there. But yeah, expect this to be the look. I figured it looks a lot better than the webcam. The webcam is probably almost as old as the microphone, so it's seen its fair number of years of use. And again, I'm sorry about the background audio. I don't know what's happening with this microphone, but for a long time, it's just not... It's just been jank as shit for the longest time. But I mean, it is a decade old, so hopefully by next episode, I'll have all that stuff figured out, and we'll be able to just have, better, clearer audio. It's going to be great. It's going to be really awesome. Without further ado, please enjoy this episode. I promise that the next episode will be a lot less jank. Thank you for your patience, guys. Welcome back to the second episode of Pasta Pod. Before we get into the story, I have a few things that I wrote down for myself. Something was reading too fast, and I think just speaking too fast in general. You've probably noticed that I do that. If I don't have like a particular script to read off of, it's kind of hard for me to keep track of what I'm saying, and I'll often interrupt myself, which is another thing that I do, is that I interrupted the story too much. And I also interrupted myself way too much. I didn't give myself a chance to actually get to fully read the story. It felt really rushed in the way that I was reading it. So I'm going to do my best to not do it this episode and get myself more into the character. I think that, and then the audio issue, I figured out entirely too late that the music was way too loud, like just to an absurd degree. It sounded quieter in Sony Vegas. Maybe I need to move to a different editing software. We'll see. I think those are all the things that I wanted to cover. That and the background audio, I tried my absolute best to clear it up in Audacity, but honestly, there's only so much I can do. If I start doing too much noise reduction, there's some diminishing returns on the actual mic quality. And I'm trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. I fixed up my mic a little bit, so it shouldn't be picking up as much background noise, but you're still going to hear, like, the click of the mouse. There's nothing I could do about that. So you're just going to have to bear with me on that. Also, another quick thing before we start the video. You'll notice that the cat is gone. Now, normally, this would kind of be a thing. She sometimes likes to sleep under the bed or kind of walk around. Mostly she likes to sleep on top of the bed when I'm not sleeping, but she is gone for the day. She is getting spayed, so please pray for my cat that she doesn't die during the surgery. They handed me these two papers, and it was a bunch of stuff I had to check out, like has she had a seizure, has she, blah blah blah, does she have any sort of diseases? And then I flip over to the back, And I think at the start of it, it's like, we are not responsible to any injuries at all to your cat or to your pets. And I'm like, is there like a chance that she could die? And I even asked the lady, she's like, yeah, well, we do thousands of surgeries every day. Occasionally one, doesn't work out. And I'm just like, what? What? Is something going to happen to my cat? So I'm very, very nervous on behalf of Moon, who was not happy. She was wailing away in the car. She was not happy to be leaving. But she is getting the surgery today, I think sometime this afternoon, and then they're going to hold her overnight, and then I'm going to pick her up tomorrow. So we'll see. I have to get up at the ass crack of dawn, like 6:30, which is unheard of for me. So the story we're going to be looking at today is a story called Secret Bar by Kate Banning, who ironically is the author of the remake of the Jeff the Killer story that the friend and I were going to try to make an episode out of and utterly fucking failed at. And I didn't go in too much into it other than like we were both like drunk. But not only was he drunk, he couldn't figure out how to work Audacity. And then also like, I think 50 minutes into the recording, he goes, "Hey Trevor, you're going to be very mad at me." And I'm like, "Oh no, what?" He goes, "Somewhere along the way, Audacity just stopped recording." And I'm like, how does that happen? He's like, "I don't know." And then like he had to re-download it, right? So he says he downloaded it from a site that was not Audacity's official website. So I'm pretty sure he just downloaded another virus, which is crazy because that's not the first time that that's happened, but that's a story for another time. But yes, Secret Bar by Kate Banning. Now, I have actually listened to this story, same as the last episode, Dear Abby. I know how the story beats go, and I know a little more about the story than I did about Dear Abby. So I'm going to preface this with a like trigger warning, whatever you want to call it, just a warning in general. I think there's something to do with self-harm in the story. So if that's like, something that affects you, click off, all that sort of stuff. This stupid little podcast isn't worth your mental health. But anyways, we're going to look at Kate Banning's profile. Just because I want to take a look at some of the other stories he's done. I think he's most popular for the Jeff the Killer. Yeah. When you go to his profile on creepypasta.com, which I found usually like No Sleep redirects you to creepypasta.com, especially if you're going to particular stories that are that were really popular back in 2016. So we have Jeff the Killer 2015, Tobit. Apparently this is a series because you have Tobit, The Champion Rises, Tobit, Hyrak Tobit, Tobit, The Lady and the Maiden of Knowledge. And this looks very like Satan-esque to me. There's a lot of just depictions of hell and goat horns. It looks very very religion based, I'll say. So I'm thinking Secret Bar is just a one-off. Maybe something he just wrote in his free time. I remember really liking the story because it goes in a very, very cool direction. But we'll see how it holds up, The writing could be absolutely terrible. This could be like, fucking the worst thing I've ever read. That's untrue. If I can recycle old content from Creepcast, not recycle. If I can bring up the I'm going to bring up the channel that I'm clearly ripping off, but I think Creepcast did it was very recent. Creepcast did a reading of this story called Happy Appy.
The video ends before the address was shown. Can of Kill, we see Happy cleaning out some large tin cans and working on mechanics in his van. After a few minutes, Happy notices the camera and says,
"Hey kids, I'm working on my can contraption."
And goes back to working on the can. Cuts to a tin can in the middle of the playground that has the note, "Open me," on it. Happy comes from the left and says,
"Whenever someone opens the can of Kill, a spray bottle pops out and sprays the kids with poison."
Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the secret bar. Every city claims to have them, and every city will tell you that theirs is the best. Most larger places will lay claim to having quite a few. I am of course speaking of secret bars. The kind of bars with no name out front, where a secret password is required to get in. This is what started my obsession. And it may have cost me my soul. Ooh, okay, I didn't remember that. The year was 2001. I had turned 21 earlier that year, and I had already done up all the new freedoms that had come with my age. I had done bars, casinos, you name it. At first it was so cool, because for years I felt like a kid, like some wet behind the ears idiot that the rest of the world sort of just patted on the head. Even after turning 21, things remained annoying. People would hear that I was 21 and treat me not like an adult, but as a new adult. Like a grown-up that still needed grown-ups. I was annoyed. I worked downtown in a dreary office job, inputting data. The nice thing about it, though, were my hours, 3 to 11 p.m. For a single guy in his early 20s, it was perfect. I got to sleep in every day, and I would get off work just in time to take the quick walk to the New Orleans Central Business District, cross over the Canal Street, and bam! I was in the French Quarter, land of booze and women. Lots of fun times were spent down there. I would like to say that I can feel this on so many levels, like turning 21 and then like having everyone treat you like you're still a child is the most irritating aspect of being a new adult. Like, a lot of people will say like, "Yeah, well, Ben, you're not an adult until you hit your 30s, and then you're not an adult till you hit your 40s." And it's like, when are we adults? Because I thought that like the adult age was like 21. And if you want to be like facetious or like a dickhead and say like, "Oh, your brain stops developing at 24," it's like, okay, yeah, you're a fucking asshole. Go fuck yourself. I'm really sick of it. It's just like, people get so fucking uppity about like how old they are, and they think they just know so much more than you, when in all actuality most of those people are fucking morons. So yeah, that hit me in like the heart right there. But it's pretty good. It's set in New Orleans, which is really cool. Because the way that I think about it, I feel like the way that the story goes, it does introduce some like black magic kind of stuff. Not like voodoo type of stuff. Okay, I said black magic. Oh god, that's not what I meant. I meant like dark arts type of magic, not, anyways. But as I said, even that began to get boring. Really boring. So I began to research secret bars. I found a few right away, and most of them were as boring as the regular bars. One in particular, called Mythique, was located up a narrow stairwell, accessible only through a tiny door located under the bar downstairs. Once I got up there, though, it was just another bar. The clientele were a bit more pretentious. Most of them thought they were the second coming of Lestat, but in the end, it was the same thing. A bar. Drinks, people, and usually crappy music. I remember one night when I was home in my apartment, using Metacrawler. Jesus Christ. I forgot this takes place in 2001. Yeah, it even says, remember, this is 2001. And searching for more secrets in my city that I was now old enough to exploit. I kept finding links to the same boring places I always went to. Then my email pinged, or should I say announced, "You've got mail." I clicked open my email and saw the heading for the message read, secret bar. Now, I was sure if I had asked anyone on my AOL buddy list for help, and I didn't recognize the sender. I figured maybe I was in a chat room one night and asked around. But I figured it was worth a check. The email was simple and short and read something like this. We're gonna get some water. We're gonna do a voice. I don't know what voice we're gonna do. I'm very good with impressions, but I'm not good with coming up with voices off the top of my head. So we'll see how it goes. Secret New Orleans bar. Actually, I should probably put like a Creole accent on it. Secret New Orleans bar. Looking for a journey? Not afraid of hell? Not too shy for heaven? Then come visit us. Be in Jackson Square tonight at 2 a.m. Wear a black shirt, gray pants, and have a cup of coffee in your hand. Seat yourself in the third bench. This is your only invitation, boy. Miss it, and you will never be invited again. P.S. Come alone. Tell no one. I think that was okay. I do really like the subtlety of like the specific type of outfit you have to wear. You have to have a cup of coffee. It feels like a prerequisite to a ritual. It's like really cool. It's like, it feels like it has nothing to do with what you're actually about to go through, but it makes all the difference in the world. It reminds me of I can't remember. It was a book about someone might know it, but it was a book where it details how to summon demons, and instead of like drawing pentagrams and like slitting the throats of chickens, you just do random things that seem innocuous, but will lead to the point where you will have a demon summoned and it will do your bidding. Like specific ones for specific use cases. I think it's really cool. It kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, no, this is so far this is pretty great. That was the end of the email. I was lucky my job required me to wear a suit, because it just so happened that I had a pair of gray slacks. I pulled on a black t-shirt and realized I actually looked pretty good. I figured this could be a prank, but even if it turned out to be nothing, I would go out and have a few drinks anyways. Maybe even get laid. Hell yeah, brother. I didn't have to go into work the next day, so this could turn out to be fun anyways. However, I may have been a bored, idiotic 21-year-old, but I wasn't totally stupid. This could also be a trick, a trap, or something worse. So I called my best friend Mike up. I told him that I was going out with some strangers from work and that I wasn't sure about them. I told him I would call him by 4 a.m., and if I didn't, for him to call and check up on me. I told him I would be in the quarter. Mike had to be up at work for 4 a.m., so it wouldn't put him out of his way to call me when he got up. I left my apartment at around 1:30. I only lived about 15 minutes from downtown, but I figured I would make sure I was on time. By 1:55 a.m., I was sitting on the third bench in Jackson Square, sipping my coffee and waiting. At 2 a.m., the cathedral bells rang out twice, and I received a tap on the shoulder. A gorgeous woman was sitting next to me, and I thought to myself, this is too cliche to be real. To me, she seemed like a walking cliche for a hidden bar. Goth girl, mid-20s, really hot. Oh yeah, baby, let's go. She was from the bar. I knew it from the start. "I'm Jody," said the woman. "Well, at least you're not Raven, or Death, or Lilith, or some other stereotypical goth name," I replied. But I did it with a smile. She returned my smile with one of her own. "Nope. Always been Jody. And you must be Kurt, right?" She knew my name? Very cool. Of course, my name was on my AOL profile where the email was sent. So if this was her attempt at a cool trick, I was one step ahead. Yes, Kurt, that's me. I guess you're here to show me to the secret bar? I asked. Only if you're ready to journey into hell, or heaven, depending on your tastes. We like to consider this the first back-out point for the new clients. You can decline the invitation now and go home, or to some other bar, wherever you'd like. Only be warned that no other invitation will ever come to you again. I considered this, and decided it was already after 2 a.m. I was out, dressed, and full of coffee. I wanted to see this place. Lead on, Miss Jody, I replied. She stood up and began to walk ahead of me. At a rapid pace, I might add. We walked in silence for some time, weaving deep into the quarter, past Bourbon Street, past all the loud and drunk tourists, past the warm and safe lights, the cop cars, the music from the bars. Before long, we were in the dark part of the quarter, mostly residential, and very few people were on the streets this way. She suddenly stopped and walked up to a stoop to a private residence. She fiddled with the keys, opened the door, and gestured for me to enter. Wait, is this someone's house? I asked. This is the house where the dead scream in silence, where the walls rot, where pain becomes pleasure, where pleasure becomes death. This is the house of Din, he who dwells on the Black Star. Enter. That is such a sick fucking sentence. Oh my god, I got chills just like reading that. This is the house where the dead scream in silence is so fucking hard. Oh, that's so cool. I forgot about that. Oh, that fucks so hard. Oh, that's cool. I thought this was the coolest pitch for a bar I had ever heard. I figured it was rehearsed, but she said that whole little phrase with a lot of conviction. I had no idea who Din was, and I certainly don't know about Black Stars, but I did have a desire to push on. She walked into the house, which was empty. No furniture, no nothing. Now, French Quarter real estate isn't cheap. So if this place was renting a house just to serve as a cover for a bar, they certainly took themselves seriously. This might not be so boring after all. What happened next was strange. She turned me towards the hallway with an elevator. Now, I know that some houses back in the day had elevators. However, this one only appeared to go down. New Orleans isn't exactly known for having basements, especially in homes. As I went to step in, she stopped me once more. This is your second back-out chance. Same as before. You can turn around and leave, no harm, no foul. Push the button, I replied, pointing down at the button, and stepped in. The elevator ride felt long. Really long. At first, I was thinking this was impossible. No one builds down in the city. Hell, we even have to bury our dead above ground. As far as I could see, though, we were going down. This was one of those older elevators with just the metal grate door. I could see the wood and metal going past us, and this eventually gave way to stone. I was about to question this when it occurred to me. Cool trick, I said. Trick? Jody asked. Yeah, the elevator is rumbling in place while a rolling graphic goes down outside to look like we're going down, right? Because while I am no expert on elevators, I would say we'd have to be at least 20 stories below the city right now, and I know that just is not possible. You're right, she replied, grinning. We aren't 20 stories below the city. We are by now at least 2,000 stories below, if you're using stories as a measurement. I wanted to say something back about how that was a lie. That had to be a lie. We hadn't been riding that long, and that amount of depth wasn't possible on a tiny elevator like this. However, I figured this was all part of the act, like her whole speech about the House of Din and all that crap. I didn't want to become too obnoxious or pushy. She might end up asking me to leave, figuring I would ruin the scene for other patrons. Instead, I smiled and decided to play along with a really cool and elaborate scene. Fake or not, this was by far the most ambitious effort I have ever seen put forward for a drinking establishment. Shortly after the elevator had stopped, Jody stepped in front of the doors. But before she opened them, she turned back to me. "This is your final chance to back out, if you wish. I will take you back. However, once I open these doors, you will be in hell. You may find your way back to the surface tonight, but some find that leaving just isn't possible. Some stay forever. In interest of free will and fair play, I am bound by the Council of Nod to offer you this final chance to return to your life. Choose now." "Amazing speech," I replied. "Really great. You guys clearly put some thought into this. Yes, I want to go to this bar." She smiled and opened the doors. A small door sat at the end of a wooden hallway that looked like it may have been built around the time of the pyramids. There were no lights. I could only see by the small electric light in the elevator and the light coming from the door ahead. I walked forward, and as soon as I stepped off the elevator, the heat hit me. It wasn't so hot that I couldn't take it, but if anyone has ever experienced being in an attic on a really hot day with no ventilation, then you'll have an idea of how this felt. The air was thick beyond description. I was instantly covered in sweat, and I knew that if I stayed in this hallway for too long, I would pass out. I turned to look back, and I saw the elevator already heading back up. From what I could see, there was no button to call it back down either. I'm guessing Jody wasn't kidding when she said that it was my last chance to back out. I crossed my fingers that the bar would be air-conditioned and walked forward into the lights. So far, this is pretty good. I am really liking how it essentially, like, she just flat out says that you're going to hell. Which is just really cool, where it's like, I don't know if if the bar can choose, like, or if like whatever entities run this can choose between whether or not someone goes to heaven or hell. But that is a really cool concept for a story, where I guess someone could be judged based off of their life decisions, and whether or not they're a good person or a bad person, they can either go to heaven or hell. All right, let's continue. What happened over the next couple of hours is largely a blur. I will tell it as best as I can. I entered that bar. It was small, very small, about the size of a bedroom. There was a single wooden bar, 3 bar stools pushed up to it, and 3 small tables in the corner area. The room was poorly lit. Only a small light bulb hanging from the cord was providing the light. However, it was well lit enough to see everything, and sitting right on the bulb seemed to be most logical. There was a small shelf behind the bar, typical setup, liquor bottles in front of a mirror. There were 5 others in this room, plus a bartender. I saw a gothic girl sitting at one of the tables, sipping a drink with a rather plain-dressed man. There were 2 gentlemen at the other table. One was wearing a business suit. The other one was wearing that awful cowboy attire that was popular in almost all walks of life, even secret bars. There was another woman, average in appearance, probably in her mid-30s, smoking at the other side of the bar. Of course, there was me too. So that completed our little circle. There was no music playing. The walls were old wood, oak maybe. The bartender, now he was a classic. White shirt, black pants, suspenders, and a bow tie. Like something out of the roaring 20s. It was still too hot. Not as bad as the hallway, but pretty awful. Liquor would only make me hotter, but I was here now. I figured I would test the waters. Now, as for liquor, I saw no bottles I could recognize. None were labeled. There was no beer either. No name brands, no cash register, no bar mats. This place was as simple as you could want. After a moment, the bartender spoke to me. "Welcome to hell," he announced, smiling. Cool name. Sort of expected it, though. I tried not to sound rude or pretentious. They had put a great show on tonight, but calling the place hell? Really? Too predictable. Alright, I'm really starting to dislike our narrator here. Because he's talking about, like, how other secret bars are full of, like, very pretentious people. But he's, like, turning it right around. He's, like, been searching for a secret bar for so long. And now he's like, you guys are really playing it up so much. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. You know, if this keeps going, I'm going to be happy when he starts to get tortured. You know, I don't know, man. I gotta hold it together. I cannot crash out in my second episode. But if he keeps doing this, it might be a crash out. Well, it translates differently in a lot of places. Hell is just the way you know it. Shall I call it something else? He asked. And he didn't seem to be joking or annoyed. No, hell is fine. How about a drink? Jack and Coke? I said. No Jack here. No Coke either. What do you have then? I asked. Well, most people down here have a drink we like to call regret. I could also serve you loneliness. Or if you're feeling particularly bold, our house special is damnation. Wow. Wow, you guys are really playing up the hell thing, okay? Serve me some regret, please. I'm gonna start using this voice if he keeps fucking doing this. This pretentious son of a bitch. He handed me a drink and poured from a brown bottle. It tasted amazing, too. I figured it might be a bourbon. I wish I had some Coke to mix with it. Fuck, what kind of Coke? You think he's like, you know, dipping in the bag a little sometimes. Man in his early 20s, gotta have a little scratch and stuff, Good old booger sugar. Apparently, there was no ice here. I chuckled. Of course not. Ice in hell? What am I thinking? The drink was tasty, though. And the buzz hit me quick. I ordered up a loneliness and began to look around at my fellow patrons. None of them seemed to even notice me. The goth girl was cute, though, so I picked up my drink and decided to walk over to her. When suddenly, the woman sitting at the bar began to whimper. I'm so thirsty. Can I please have some water? She seemed to be pleading this to the bartender. No, ma'am, he replied with that same stupid grin. No water in hell, not even a small amount. Have another cigarette, though. Wash it down with some hard liquor. Can I please have some water? How about you shut the fuck up before I smack your stupid fucking face? Fucking. So can I have some water? If you ask me that again, I'm going to fucking shoot you. No more smoking. My mouth is too dry. No more liquor. Water, please, she continued. And to me, it sounded a lot like begging. Instead of handing her water, He held out an unlit cigarette. It was then I noticed the overflowing ashtray, the size of a damn punch bowl, sitting next to her. It was full of butts. Had to be over 1,000 of them in there. Had she smoked all of them herself? I strained my eyes to study her harder. Her lips were blistered badly. She had been at it a while. The bartender patiently held out the cigarette, grin never leaving his face, until she sighed and took it. He produced a lighter, and she took a drag. She began to cough violently, gagging, too. I decided to chime in. Hey man, she doesn't look so hot. And I really don't think she needs another smoke. She looks like she's dying of thirst, too. Call the elevator man. She's had enough, I think. The bartender turned his big smile on me. Who? Old Nancy here. Nah, Nancy is a trooper, man. Smokes a couple backs a day. As far as her thirst, well, she knew this place was a thirsty sort of dive before she walked in the door. But she wanted to be here, and she's getting exactly what she wanted. I started to go for the Creole accent. Maybe that works a little better. Who? Old Nancy here? Nah, Nancy is a trooper. Smokes a couple packs a day. As far as her thirst, well, she knew this place was a thirsty sort of dive before she walked in the door. But she wanted to be here. She is getting exactly what she wanted. I walked over to Nancy and placed my hand on her shoulder. Ma'am, if you want to get out of here, I'll walk you over to the elevator. You don't look great right now. I tried to sound as concerned as a 20-year-old kid could sound. Nancy looked at me and smiled. Oh, I'm fine. Just fine, she said, but her mouth quivered as she spoke. The bartender was watching us like a hawk, still smiling, but his smile no longer looked so friendly. Everything okay? He asked, beaming like a used car salesman. Nancy shakily replied yes. The bartender turned around, and in that second, Nancy gripped my arm, pulled me into the smog that was her breath, and whispered, "Leave while you can." So low, I almost missed it. Her breath was like a chimney. She must have been chain-smoking for days. I smoked. So do most of my friends. Even on nights, we would chain-smoke and pound booze until the sun rose. None of us were ever that toxic. I walked over to the man in the business suit. He at least appears sane. "Hey, sir, I think that lady over there needs help," I said to him. The man looked and laughed at me. "We all need help, kid. We're in hell after all," he shouted. As he did this, I looked over at the goth girl, just in time to see her begin to cut herself deep and hard from the looks of it. The plain-dressed man sitting next to her began to laugh in a high-pitched tone, almost a giggle. And that was what I noticed. He was masturbating. Again? Again? What are the fucking chances, man? What are the fucking chances I get another masturbation scene in a fucking story? This is the second episode. Brother, what? Oh, God. Yeah, see, this is the reason I put the warning. Because, yeah. I knew there was something with, like, as soon as he, like, mentioned the goth girl, I instantly remembered, but I did not remember the guy, like the masturbating guy. So, but it as kind of heavy-handed as, like, the typical goth girl cutting herself sort of deal is, I do like how it is kind of based on vices. That's what it seems like. You got the chain smoker, you got the self-harm, you got the, the chronic masturbator. I don't know how much more gets explored other than like the character himself, because obviously, he's the main character. He's going to go through something as well. But overall, just like pretty solid. The writing is a bit kind of all over the place. Like at times he'll be talking about something else, and then he'll just immediately, so like when he was talking about the way that the bartender was dressed, he was like he was wearing a dress shirt, suspenders, and nice slacks, and then immediately goes to like it was still too hot. So there's like a few instances of that in this story where it kind of just cuts to like an entirely other topic, just in a just jarringly. So yeah, at this point, that's the only thing that I have to say, criticism wise. But overall, I'm getting into this. I am, as the Creepcast guys would say, bought in. The plain-dressed man sitting next to her began to laugh in a high-pitched tone, almost a giggle. And that was when I noticed he was masturbating. Only not in the sense that we all do at home. No, his penis was raw, bloody, torn away in pieces. Oh, God. Oh, God. But he just kept going at it. Stop that! Look at what you're doing to yourselves! I screamed at them. They looked at me, and I noticed the girl was crying, but also smiling. Her eyes were practically begging for her self-inflicted pain to stop, yet she just kept cutting. I had seen enough. I reached over and attempted to pull the knife out of her hand. Just then, I felt a strong grip on my shoulder, stronger than anything I had ever felt in my life. It was the bartender. He had come around the bar to grab me. "No, no, sir," he screamed in my ear. "Every patron of hell gets to enjoy their treats without judgment. After all, judgment is already passed. We exist beyond that now. Let her cut. She loves it after all. Can't you see she loves it? She's smiling ear to ear." The bartender dragged me back to my stool, and with great speed was somehow back behind the bar again. "Now, you wanted secrets, right, Kurt? You'd been bored and wanted more. That's what you came here for. Now drink your drink before I beat your fucking face in." Through all of this, he never stopped smiling. He slammed the glass before me. He grabbed my arm and began to squeeze, the pain becoming unbearable. My mind began to race. This was no bar. This was something, but not a bar. I wasn't ready to believe I was actually in hell, but I knew I was somewhere bad. "Drink your drink, sir!" he screamed again. And fearing that I would pass out from the pain, I slammed down the liquid in front of me. It tasted horrible. I couldn't describe it then, and I can't now. But it was fierce. He let go of me, and suddenly the room got much hotter. The light began to flicker, and suddenly I was afflicted by knowledge. Things I didn't want to know. Things that no one would want to know. My mother had an affair, and the man I'd grown up calling Dad was in fact not my father at all. I had a brother who died. I never knew that. My boss at work hated me. My grandfather committed suicide. All these years, I just thought he died naturally. My mother was going to abort me, but changed her mind because she couldn't afford the abortion. I was going to die alone. My wife, a woman I would meet in 6 years and fall madly in love with, would die in a car crash with my 3-year-old son in the back seat. Wow, holy shit. So, I'm guessing Yeah, so like his vice is like secrets. So, you know, the drink that he got was like, well, you wanted secrets, friend. We're gonna shove them right in your fucking face. Um, sorry, that was probably pointless, but like it's really cool. It's like giving all these people like their vices to the point that even they want to stop, but they're not allowed to stop because they don't know how to stop. I'm not. I'm about as media literate as a orange, so I really couldn't tell you like any deep meaning behind this, if there's any at all. But just the baseline of the story like is really cool. It's just like these people are figuring out these people are figuring out much later that their vices are just not good for them. Like you could have too much of a good thing. And it's especially emphasized with the secrets, especially like obviously, you know, the pile of cigarettes and the self-harming and the masturbation. But the secrets, like this is like just psychological torture, like finding out things that you didn't know or would never want to know. I wouldn't say it's worse, but it's a different kind of damage. I would go blind in my 60s from a work-related accident. But wait, what? From fucking what? Someone's gonna spill like blinding hot coffee in your face? You work at an office. What could possibly fucking happen at an office? Like, well, I accidentally knocked over my container of sulfuric acid. Got in my coworker's eyes. Nothing you can do about that. I have to have my sulfuric acid with me at work. It's like seriously, how the fuck? You work in an office. How the fuck did you go blind? There were currently 34 people in the world right now. Some who I thought of as friends who wanted me to die. They hate me. No one, not my mother, not my father, no one had ever loved me at all. Those were just a few of the secrets that suddenly hit me. There were thousands, maybe millions more, but by then, my mind couldn't process all of them. There were some things about me, things about people I knew, that were so dark that I'm thankful I cannot remember them. Because to dwell on them for even a second longer would have brought on madness. Frantically, I looked around the bar. The woman Nancy, still smoking, only her throat was on fire. A small red glow, smoldering, right in the middle of her throat. She was clearly in the worst pain of her existence, but she continued to take puff after puff of her cigarette. Each time she did, the glow on her throat would get brighter. I looked straight ahead into the mirror behind the bar, seeing the gore fest that had begun behind me. However, what took my attention was the small black figure standing directly to my right. It was maybe 5 feet tall. Its skin was jet black. The only thing that stood out was its eyes. They were human eyes, but bright. Not glowing, just bright enough to stand out from the onyx of its face. It had small horns on its head. It had very white, very sharp teeth. Somehow, I knew this was Din. And I was in his house. Ooh, okay. All right. God damn. Din is just a little goblin creature. No, Din is actually the main Din's actually the main character of Dear Abby. You just entered his house, and now he's gonna crawl around in walls and write you a bunch of letters. I looked towards the door, but it was gone. The heat continued to get worse. The secrets were still popping into my mind, each worse than the one before. Entire dimensions of my soul were being revealed to me, all of it horrible. Just then, my cell phone rang. The ringtone, something from my world, something from up above. It grabbed my attention, and in that moment, the secret slowed a bit. I looked down. It was 4 a.m. Mike was calling back to check up on me. His name. Mike. Yes, I have a friend named Mike, my best friend. The more I focused on things that were real, the more stable things became around me. The secrets were almost stopping now. The macabre scene around me was slowing down too. Nancy was just back to smoking again. The goth girl wasn't cutting. That sinister face of Din, it had also retreated. Mike, my oldest friend. Yes, we grew up together. We rode our bikes together. We had sleepovers, pizza parties. The more I focused on the real world, if I could just... The door was back. I bolted for it.
"Stop! You had your chance to back out!"
screamed the bartender, and I looked back just in time to see him leap over the bar behind me. I shot through the doors and back into the tiny, impossibly hot hallway. The bartender burst through the doors, and I did the only thing I could think of. If thinking about the real world weakened this place, then perhaps a link to the real world would break it. I hit answer on my cell phone, and the voice of my best friend, who was calling from the safety of his apartment, greeted my ears. I could even hear music in the background, real music. "Mike, call the cops. I'm in trouble here," I screamed into the phone. What? I could barely hear you, man. Your connection sucks," he answered. The bartender was still coming, still grinning. I had one last idea. I pushed speaker. Mike's voice, a product of the living world, owned by someone who had not made a deal to enter some level of hell, flooded the hallway. The bartender stopped.
"He is not allowed to know of this place, to have any contact without being invited, even a voice contact. It violates the Council of Nard. He is not allowed to know of this place, to have any contact without being invited, even voice contact. It violates the Council of Nard."
That was when the final blow to the bar from hell was delivered. I heard Mike, in a sleepy yet concerned voice, say,
"What is the Council of Nard?"
Contact had been made. Whatever rules governed this place had been broken. Suddenly, the elevator came down. The bartender, still smiling, looked down at me.
"Sorry, sir, but you have violated the rules. You are no longer welcome at this bar. Please leave."
Jody was standing in the elevator. I stood up and climbed in. The effects of the drink I consumed were gone. No more secrets. My phone had died. I guess calling from hell drains the battery. However, the effects were enough. We rode up in silence. When we reached the surface, Jody walked me out of the house onto the stoop. Then she spoke. "You may think you have won tonight, but you didn't. You had a chance to ride this elevator up and down. Your heart wanted secrets instead of happiness, so it went down. You could have gone up, and everything you could ever have possibly desired would have been yours. So go on, feel proud. We like proud mortals, because the proud ones always find their way back to hell." Fuck you, Jody. Yeah, fuck you, Jody. You bitch. When I got home that night, I remembered all of the secrets. Over the years, they have slipped away. Slowly at first, then like a dream. I would wake up and more would be lost. I wrote down the ones I listed here because I didn't want to forget them all. However, when I read them now, they don't seem like secrets anymore. Just like weird lies. Of course, I called the police the very next day. I wanted to help those people down there. I had to dress up the story a bit. I told the cops I was led there by Jody after meeting her in the quarter. I left out the part about the place possibly being a level of hell, and simply described it as a basement where people were being tortured. The cops got a warrant and went in. The house was empty, as I said it was. However, there was no elevator found. The cops said there was a large closet area that appeared to have been an old elevator at one point, but was long gone now. The house itself was still on the market. It had no owner. For a few years, I would go down to Jackson Square around 2 a.m., hoping to catch Jody luring another victim to the house. However, I never saw her again. Years went on. I did marry, and no, my wife was never killed in a car accident. We don't have kids yet, though. Perhaps when I violated the contract, the Council of Nod, or whatever, I somehow broke that cycle. I'll never know. But I will be careful. After I posted this, I burned the list of secrets that had been written down. Of course, I can always read them on here, but I won't. And in time, hopefully, I will forget them too. I've never confronted my mother about the abortion plan or asked who my real dad was. Those secrets seemed so real. But Satan is also called the father of lies for a reason. I'm not sure if Din is Satan or just a lesser version of him. But I doubt that Din is a very honest sort either. I post this as a warning, though. A warning to be careful when seeking out secrets. Some things are kept secret for a reason, and to know them is to know madness. Well, that was certainly a story. I do remember the beats to it. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of underwhelmed by the end. I really don't know what I was expecting, but a phone call from hell that breaks the contract, I don't know, it seems kind of a little ridiculous, but overall not too terrible. I did kind of hit it out of the park when I was speaking about, Feist. Clearly, it was very obvious that it was, Feist based. I do wonder what level of hell this is, because it's abundantly clear that it's like hell, but it's never really established if you are in a level of hell or if you're in like some sort of pocket area in hell. And honestly, I think that's probably better, because so many stories feel the need to explain so many things to the point where it's gratuitous. So to have a story that's like this, that just, plain and simple, here's what happened, I tried to stop it, nothing could be done. And the fact that it's still leering out there, still able to capture more victims and, trap more people in this place of vice is very scary. Anybody could be a victim of it if they just looked hard enough. So overall, very deserving of I think it's got, it's like almost a 9 out of 10. And I totally agree. This is a very solid story. Honestly, I want to find more stuff by Kay Banning, because I do really like the Kay Banning version of Jeff the Killer and its off series about Lou and all that. I do think it's pretty good. At some point, I will be covering the Kay Banning Jeff the Killer story, because it far surpasses any previous versions of it by a long shot. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you have any stories that you would like me to read, please leave them down in the comments below, or contact my email, or if you're friends with me on Discord, shoot me a message on Discord. And same if you want to be a guest on here. I would love to have somebody at some time. But without further ado, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends if you want to. And I hope you all have a good night.